Poverty is one of the biggest problems in the world today. Poverty is the principal cause of hunger. 75% of the world's poorest countries are located in Africa. Africa remains the poorest continent on Earth. In Africa, over 589 million people live without electricity. More than 1 million people, mostly children, die every year from malaria. Canada averages only about 14 cases per year. Over 414 million people live in extreme poverty, living on $1.25 or less a day across Africa. Especially for some countries, like Nigeria in Africa. 61% of Nigeria is below the poverty line, with crime rates rising every day and with HIV/AIDS marking the lives of many. About 100 million Nigerians live on less than $1 per day, which isn't even enough to buy you a candy bar. Growing up in Nigeria is a nightmare for many children. There are about 8.2 million orphans in Nigeria, with 1.8 million orphaned by HIV/AIDS. Well, enough about those facts. Why pick poverty in Nigeria? It's Nigeria. It's on the other side of the world in Africa. The reason I picked poverty in Nigeria is because of my neighbor, Harvey Stromme, who's dedicated his life to helping kids in Nigeria, running his own orphanage and teaching his orphans how to survive and educate them spiritually and fundamentally. Harvey's story is truly inspirational.
There was a real need out in Africa for church planting and teaching. Schools had no teachers. I was already in the ministry myself then and teaching and one thing and another. But when I heard the challenge of this, I offered, they wanted somebody that would come out that had some training and help them for 1 year or a year and a half. So I lined up with a mission group in Toronto here that helped me to set me up, and I got out to Africa, and they sent me to a place way up in northern part of Nigeria. They had some schools up there, but no teachers, so I did teach in the schools there, and through that, how I got started in the orphanage, from teaching in the schools and one thing and another. Then it wasn't very long before I had the children dropped on my doorstep. I wasn't intending. I went out there to help them in church planting and school teaching.
It was the year 1966. A lot had changed over the years. For Harvey, that first year and a half in Nigeria was a nightmare compared to Canada.
When I first arrived there, as well as the mission tried to explain a lot of preparations to get you mentally prepared and physically prepared and spiritually prepared to go into a total different culture. You think you understand it here when you hear it, but when you get out there and you're plopped in the center of it, pretty hard to believe that it's that bad.
The climate, disease, the food was all a struggle. But one thing Harvey never got used to being around was something you might not have thought of.
I wasn't even settled into my room in my house when I realized there was lizards. All kinds of lizards. Now they weren't great big ones, but they would be about a foot long, most of them. I sat down, and when I sat in there, lizards were running all over the place. Harvey, you're not in Canada now, you're in Africa. We have no more clean sheets to put on that bed. You have to sleep on that or sleep on the floor, and they'll get you more on the floor than you will get in the bed. So I had to sleep on the bed with the lizards.
There were hundreds of lizards living around Harvey's compound. But that's not the only thing that was living around. There were children of all ages, everywhere. Kids known as orphans.
How would I put that? Because you couldn't count them. There's that many. They're just all over the place. I used to take my children in the car, and we'd pull down into a area of the town, and a canteen place, what we call a canteen. We wanted to pick a few things up. You'd see the children, no clothes on them, dirty, filthy, digging in the rubbish.
It wasn't long before Harvey would become more than a teacher. He would become a caregiver, a person to rely on, giving children a new hope. He learned what patience really meant.
You pretty well had to train them, even at that age, almost how to go to the bathroom, how to take care of yourself, and all that. That had to be all. It was just like, but you had to have a lot of patience with them. Always remember what they came from, what you brought them in from, and what we're trying to take them to. You don't take them there in one day or 1 week. So it takes quite a while to train them properly, yeah. But you have to train them up. Some of them you just have to start as you would almost like a new baby.
If you thought your house had a lot of siblings, think twice. All the time, Harvey and his family had a full house.
So we would have, around 40 children at one time. Yeah, at one time. But then down through the years, I don't go by numbers. But at the same time, I would say well over 500. And then now some of the older ones, they're taking in orphans as well now. So it's a continuous ministry that's going on, yeah.
On an everyday basis, Harvey overcame many obstacles that we take for granted.
Well, it was a constant problem there, or a challenge, but it was a challenge in one way, but my love for the children was so great that to have to get up and start doing cooking when you're so tired you can hardly stand up after teaching. But one thing with raising them, especially bringing them in, they were so malnutrition. So they couldn't resist anything, and you had to watch out for malaria, a lot of malaria. I had a terrible time with malaria with them. Some of them I got when they were 5, 6 years old, but then there were babies that I just picked up. But it's the sickness to be sure they're feeling well, help that you're trying to give them physically and all the rest. And they respond physically, they respond mentally, and they respond spiritually. And you see them responding and see them growing. That's where the great reward comes, yeah.
It wasn't long until Harvey became something more to the locals in Nigeria. He had a name that was given to him over the years.
They would look at one another and they'd say, you see this? A stranger came along and look at what he's done. What have we done? What have we done? So later on I got the title of Baba Nyara, the father of children. Father of children.
Over 50 years of watching children grow up and turning out to be very successful in the community. For Harvey, the rewards of running an orphanage was well worth all the hard work he put in.
Well, the most rewarding thing is to see them, how they responded physically, because they were so sick when I got them. I would say the biggest number of the children, I got them dropped on my doorstep almost dead, or picked them up in the village almost dead. A lot of my children, they just seemed to be in their blood was accountancy. Math, they were so good in math. So a lot of them have gone through as accountants. I got something that's gone through as lawyers. I have something that's gone through as medical doctors, nurses.
Harvey's philosophy is a pretty simple one, a man of faith and hope. He preaches from the heart.
We have found that when you get one person enlightened with the gospel and they really come to know the Lord and they follow the Lord, it's not only that person that's changed, but he contributes to change your community. You follow what I mean? Through this it has reached out, yeah. Mm-hmm. And how life is and what God expects of us, and this is to give them something more to aim for, something, a spiritual message that's got hope and help and everything in it for their every need.
For Harvey, the hardest thing isn't just the complications of living in Africa that bothered him, but the simplest things.
Oh, tremendous. It's worthwhile. I wish I could go back again. I'm now 92 past, and the children and the church still want me to go back out there. The part that really aches me, and I don't like to tell it to anybody, but I'm like a fish out of water. 50 years out there, and I have no immediate family here, but out there, that's my family. That's my family. My place should be back out there with them.
If you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make that change. Starting with the man in the mirror.
What I have learned through Harvey is that these kids are real, just like you and me. They're just not pictures you see on the internet.
There I am there. This is Dowda, this is the other one, this is his wife now.
They have names like Haruna and Dowda. They love sports like soccer. They love to learn given the opportunity. They have dreams of becoming something more than statistics of poverty. Now that you have been informed about the poverty going on in Nigeria, what can you do to make a change? Not all of us are like Harvey, who can dedicate their whole lives into doing this, but you can do small things that can make a big difference, like donate to various organizations, offer prayers every day, volunteer, and sponsor a child, and also much, much more. So, I hope you have learned a bit more on this ever-increasing problem, and I hope you enjoyed. And remember, even you can make a big difference. You can also make a big change on these children's lives. Thank you all for watching.